Started working when I was 15, living on my own when I was 15, and worked all different sorts of casual jobs. I'd worked for builders and everything when I was at school still, from when I was 13 onwards, all my school holidays and my weekends, that sort of stuff. Not a lot of work in that era, so a lot of casual jobs, sometimes 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time, stringing them together to make ends meet. Yeah, did all sorts of things, timber mills, sugar mills, orchid nurseries, building, electrical, trades assistant, concreting, whatever was around, whatever I could get my hands on. And started bouncing when I was 18. Started out in nightclubs though behind the bar. Didn't really want to bounce. Maryborough, obviously small town. You get well known pretty quick and pretty easy, so wasn't really keen on bouncing there, but my hand got forced. 86 kilos at 13. And I was lean, fit at that age as well. And like I said, I started martial arts because it was a violent place. And I didn't like seeing friends get picked on and bullied, and I didn't like getting bullied myself. I didn't like bullies. So I'd always stand up, and regardless of the situation. A lot of my mates trained as well. So there was a good core group of us that all sort of went to school together, knocked around together, we were all training, and some of us raced BMXs together as well, and just hung out and that sort of stuff, Worked in retail again for another 2 years and decided it just wasn't for me anymore. So I went and worked in the prisons. So I got a job in there. Worked in the security side of things when I first went in there, which was all pretty cool. Ended up being the team leader for the riot squad and doing all the control and restraint training for our prison, which was privatised, and also used to get seconded across to the government and that sort of stuff as well. It's a different sort of an environment, that's for sure. It's definitely a depressing sort of place to be in, and you got to sort of really separate yourself. For me, it was a job, never personal. Tried to treat people how they treated me, whether they were officers or inmates or management. I just tried to treat everybody how they treat me, In there for nearly 6 years. Ended up in the gym. So I worked in the gym. That's when I started a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness over a couple of years while I was working there. So just external studies, which I mainly started so that I understood more how to train people better, because I'd started running a martial arts school, Zendo Kai and Thai club again. I'd started fighting. I did that while I was at the prison. I was running a martial arts school, doing Zendo Kai, Thai, with Glenn McIntosh. So he was doing we were sort of splitting it down the middle because I did shift work. So I wasn't always able to teach, so we went into partnership, and that's how it all got started. Through my traineeship, where I did it, because I'd had a history of pad work, training fighters, that sort of stuff, the gym that was attached to that college, the guy that ran it started asking me about stuff, how to hold pads better, how to do things better. I ended up getting sort of pulled into that, and then I did some sparring with all the guys who were doing just a bit of fitness, boxing and stuff like that. And then one thing led to another. I ended up with clients, even though I didn't really do my fitness course to start PTing. I ended up with a heap of personal clients, and word spread, and it just kept building and building. I'd started fighting around that sort of time as well. And so I'd had a few Thai fights, had a boxing fight while I was at the prison as well, in the police games. After a while, management changed at the prison. Their whole focus changed. Didn't fit with me very well. Didn't like the direction I was heading. I thought it was dangerous. So I was always butting heads with management because I was involved in training staff. I was also involved in, as I said, the emergency response group. So I decided it wasn't for me anymore, time to leave. And I worked for my uncle while I got my PT business off the ground, full time. So I'd train clients in the morning, race down. He's got a workshop at Yatala. Race down there, get on a grinder for the day, or welding, whatever needed to be done. And then I'd race back in the afternoon, train more clients. That went on for 12 months, and then I struck a deal with the owner of Yellow Cabs, Neil Ford, to put a gym in one of his buildings that he had. Mates from school helped me, guys that had been training with me helped me, and we got it all started. And after a lot of work and elbow grease, and that's how Sassom actually started. Sassom means superior attitude, superior state of mind. Just an acronym: superior attitude, superior state of mind. Sassom, yeah. I like to leave it a bit of a mystery sometimes, give some people something to ask about. Sometimes it's good to have it in. Other times I put it out there for a while and then take it down again. Yeah. I always wanted to fight when I was younger, when I first started training. So when I was 16, 17, I really wanted to fight then, but my coach at the time didn't think it was right for me. These days I feel I listened to that for too long, and I missed out on some great opportunities that I wish I had taken. So after I had two, I did them under my first martial arts instructor. Even though I was living in Brisbane, I went up to Maryborough, trained with him still, fought under him. That relationship broke down a bit, and started training under probably in one of the hardest Thai gyms in Australia. Learnt a lot there. That's where I actually feel I learnt Thai, and I learned how to fight. That's where I really think I learnt that side of Thai when I started there. It was while I was training there I had the boxing fight, and then I had two more Thai fights. And that's when I started becoming good at it and successful at it, and I still turned down some opportunities that I should have taken because I was still listening at that era a little bit too much to my ground roots. And then Carla came along, watched me fight in Thailand, and didn't like it at all. She struggled. So, she grew up in Civil War, so violence was something in her face from a very young age. People, the military would just come storming through their houses. They saw they actually drove out of a service station which blew up behind them on the way out. So, I can understand growing up in violence, seeing guns all the time and that sort of stuff, why she struggles with it. And she struggles with not just me getting hurt, but also me hurting someone else. It's not the image she likes of me, which is fine. I sort of get that. I know for a while I was sort of a bit lost because I still wanted to compete. I enjoyed the competition. Once I got into it, I just wanted to do more of it. I wanted to be better. There was a few guys I knew that were doing BJJ at the time, and so I thought I'll give it a crack, have a plug at it, and went into a comp, teamed up with one of my old flatmates for about, 2 hours or so. Did a bit of training with him, went into the comp on the weekend and won a gold. And that's sort of where it started. And then he was training under Darren McKeenan. So after that comp, I sort of tracked Daz down and had a chat to him because I was running a gym at the time. I could never make classes anywhere where classes were on, so I had to sort of do private. So I was doing a private a week with Daz. Got more and more into it, and then went another comp. Didn't win that time. They mixed the whites and the blues together. I got a blue belt that was 130 or 40 kilos or something like that straight off the bat. And I only lost by 2 points, but, I sort of went, okay, need more training. So I started doing 2 sessions a week with Daz then. And after a while I went, dude, what are you going to charge me to come and teach in a club? I figure if I'm paying him to train me, what's he going to charge me to come and run a class for me, in my gym? So we struck a deal there. We started a club in the old Sassom, in the building where it all started. And Daz would train twice a week, and I ran the other class during the week, as a white belt. There wasn't a lot around Brisbane in that era. There wasn't much BJJ. There was a few clubs, but there wasn't a lot. So you could sort of get away with it then a little bit. And because I'd been teaching martial arts for so long, I think I just figured it out, People started coming in. One of the other club that Daz started years before that Chris Naylor was at, closed down. That was at Chandler. All came across and started training at ours. So, and then Daz was still teaching for me twice a week, and Chris had helped me out with classes and whoever else was there, and we just sort of started a really cool thing, that early era of Sassom, and that was probably only 6 months after we started. So although it was unfortunate that one club closed, it was great for us that we inherited some really good guys. And then probably within another, within 12 months, Hansel came along. I think I'd just gotten my blue, and he was a good purple at the time. And so then he was a great asset to that evolving and developing as well. After a bit, got a bit more serious with the Thai guys as well, started throwing some guys into amateur fights and that sort of stuff. So the Thai was sort of building. The profile of Sassom with Thai was growing slowly as well. I started competing all over Australia as a blue. Look, I'd done a couple of seminars years beforehand. When BJJ, when UFC, BJJ sort of stuff first started in the early 90s. And at that time, I was still more interested in punching thing, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was quite complex. And at that point in time, I sort of went, well, I think I can do that when I'm older. I don't think I can keep punching things forever. I think some people in some martial arts, and they try to do too many things at once. I had enough going on, and so yeah, I sort of put that on the back burner. The right people weren't in front of me either. I think when the right person's in front of you, you'll start doing a lot more with it. And when I first looked at when I first had any look at BJJ or wrestling or anything like that, I was up in Cairns, and at that time there was really nobody doing anything up there. As I said, BJJ, that was still early 90s, so there really wasn't. I think Pete DeBean had started training then, but that was down in Melbourne, and he was probably a white or a blue belt in that sort of time. So years later, I did a couple more seminars, probably late 90s. Still liked it, still enjoyed it, but still into punching things. So then by the time it came around that, Carla had sort of seen me fight and wasn't, keen on it, I thought, oh well, might as well give it a go. There's competition, so I went and had a rumble and loved it. So, and then sort of got hooked from the competition side of it more than anything else. Most other people probably start for completely different reasons, looking for a form of self-defense or something different. I already had that. I was comfortable with that sort of things. But yeah, it was a way to compete. Learn something new. It was a very technical, I'm not saying punching, kicking's not, but I don't think that's anywhere near as technical as BJJ. It doesn't take as long to get reasonably good at it, as BJJ does. BJJ's a lot more frustrating to sort of get your head around, I think, at the start. Yeah.